January 14, 2002.
A coal train is traveling from Russell, Kentucky, when one of the two conductors on board the train spots a light up ahead on an oncoming track.
The conductors expect to see a train when they round the bend, but that's not what happens.
What they do see astounds them. To the right of the tracks are two unidentified objects hovering over the river.
These craft appear to be scanning the river with spotlights, and they seem to be approaching their train.
With the UFOs in clear view, the train begins to malfunction.
Suddenly, the train's computers start flashing in and out, and the speedometer goes berserk.
One of them notices another light coming straight at them.
That light in front of them turns out to be a third UFO, and as they round the corner, it's headed right towards them. There is no time to react.
The conductors fear for their lives when the UFO hits the train. They hear the sound of scraping metal, but the train's momentum keeps it barreling forward until it finally stops 2 miles up the tracks.
The conductors look up, and the other two UFOs are still hovering in the distance. The train is now sitting outside Russell, Kentucky, smoke pouring out from the impact.
Suddenly, two UFOs that appeared along their side vanish into thin air. But in their initial inspection, the conductors didn't see any sign of UFO wreckage.
The conductors have no idea why they were attacked and are puzzled by what kind of craft could escape undamaged after hitting the train. The conductors head to the abandoned station.
The station was no longer in use, so they're totally surprised to suddenly see all this personnel and activity there. As soon as they pull into the station, an army of workers immediately start taking apart the train. A guy by the name of Patterson greets the train conductors and brings them into what used to be the old yard office. This man Patterson tells them that they'll have to undergo a series of questions and mandatory medical tests for their own protection before they're permitted to leave.
1995, Wedowee, Alabama.
62-year-old Barbara Smith, a retired nurse's aide, is with 5 fellow church members driving in a van.
Just as one of the witnesses inside the van comments that the poultry plant owner must have put up a new light installation on the property, the light begins to move.
This light that everyone in the van saw suddenly transforms into a moving orb of light. The orb travels toward the roadway and actually starts keeping pace with the van.
As they continue to drive, the orb's altitude is changing frequently, but it mainly stays to one side of the van, the side Smith happens to be sitting on.
Now the orb is making rapid movements and getting as close as 50 feet from the van. It's dropping down to their eye level, shooting back up above the trees.
As the van continues down the road, the mysterious orb suddenly shines an intense bright beam of light directly where Smith and her friend are sitting.
When this beam shines into Smith's window, she sees something totally bizarre. When they get to the intersection, as quickly as the light came upon them, it suddenly disappears.
The next morning, her eyes have changed color. They've been brown her whole life, and now one is blue and the other is green.
Whatever energy source they are using may possess the potential to cause real physical damage, such as burning and radiation, and it's the unlucky few individuals who get close enough and suffer these consequences.
There's nothing we know of with the ability to cause such physical damage as Smith described, but without question, this object seemed to exhibit some form of heightened intelligence.
Summer 1969.
On a humid summer night, Sam Schilling is taking a joyride through the dirt roads behind his uncle's home in Belmont. As Schilling takes a left-hand turn, he sees a faint light up ahead through a grove of trees. It looks like a flare about 50 feet away.
All of a sudden, there's interference on Schilling's car radio. Stretching across the entire road is a dark, cigar-shaped object about 40 feet long. It's just hovering there in the middle of the road.
The craft is cylindrical, and it has a thick leg-like device that angles out onto the ground.
Schilling realizes the massive craft isn't moving, and he's about to run right into it.
Schilling slams on his brakes, but it's too late, and he skids a quarter of the way under the object.
The UFO's lights pulse brighter.
He looks out his window to try to figure out what the heck this object could possibly be. Schilling's windshield is now literally 3 feet below the UFO's base. He sees a brilliant, pulsating light at the bottom of the UFO. It's as blinding as a welding torch.
The UFO begins to rise up, and Schilling decides to escape.
As Schilling jumps out of his car to make a run for it, blasts of searing hot air radiate from the UFO's base.
Schilling climbs back inside his car. He again tries to move it out from under the UFO.
He's now able to throw the car into reverse, and he floors it. The car spins backward about 40 feet and stalls out.
The brilliant light at the base of the UFO flares up for a second or two. Instantly, there's a blinding flash and the UFO vanishes out of sight.
Summer 1968. Roseville, California.
Los Angeles police officer James Turner and his wife are driving their camper to Oregon for a fishing trip.
It's just after midnight. James reaches an isolated stretch of road and notices a bright white light in the sky that's keeping pace for this camper. James keeps an eye on the strange light for the next 4 miles, when he notices 3 more lights on his right and left. Now all of these lights are keeping pace with this camper.
James has a bad feeling about this. He's thinking that some kind of intelligent craft is intentionally following his camper, and he has no idea why.
Light size and intensity start to grow as it gets closer and closer to the camper. As it approaches, the light shines a bluish-green beam or cone-shaped light towards the ground.
Frightened, James pulls the camper over to the side of the road. The UFO is in the shape of a cigar, about 40 to 50 feet in length. On either side, there are what appear to be 2 engines. There aren't any wings or even a tail. The UFO slowly flies over the camper, and it's huge. James now has a really clear view and sees the sharply defined bluish-green beam is still shining onto the ground and covering an area of about 30 to 40 feet in diameter.
To the Turners' relief, the UFO appears to lose interest in them and floats over the highway until it disappears above the trees.
They resume driving, and at about 2 a.m. they arrive at a rest stop in Roseville, California.
The Turners attempt to sleep, but the UFO soon returns.
It sounds like the UFO is hovering just above their camper. So she wakes up James yelling, "The thing has come back! The thing has come back!" In the distance, James can see a dark object traveling away from the camper.
February 1st, 1977, Glendale, California. Sergeant Simpson reports that 2 of his helicopter pilots were rattled by an incident that occurred the day before.
Officers Roger Kane and Tim Jenkins are in their copter patrolling the Glendale area around 8:40 p.m. Officer Kane spots what appears to be a fixed-wing aircraft.
The 2 officers are struck by the object's odd behavior.
This craft is flying very low, about 200 feet below the helicopter and moving fast at 100 miles per hour. The helicopters are going about 60 to 70 miles per hour, so this thing was cruising.
They pursue the craft because nothing should be flying that low and that fast over a populated area. The craft has 1 yellowish white bright light, but no other identifiable navigation lights.
The officers quickly realize that this is not a normal aircraft.
This light was nothing like a strobe.
Suddenly, the unidentified object shoots up towards their helicopter at an alarming speed.
They also see an intense bright yellowish light that illuminates the entire craft from top to bottom.
The officers panic when the UFO begins to follow their helicopter's every move. The UFO begins to close in.
It makes a sudden move closer to the helicopter. Officer Kane quickly turns to the right, and this time the object pulls back to its original distance a few hundred feet away.
The officers attempt to contact dispatch, but their radio is no longer working. the UFO simply flies away, abandoning the hunt.
After the UFO's aggressive approach and retreat, it rises up to about 500 feet, changes course towards the southeast, and zips off towards Chevy Chase Canyon.
1 minute it was right in front of them, and the next instant it was gone.
We have to keep in mind that this must be just the tip of the iceberg. There are so many cases out there, and the question is, what is going on and why?
It's perfectly conceivable that extraterrestrials represent a wide range of agendas. These entities that are coming here may not all be benevolent scientists.